I curled up on the cold floor while my son and his wife slept soundly upstairs, in the bed I paid for. They said the guest room was taken. They said it was just for now. But even pets aren't made to sleep beside the trash bin. I didn't cry. I waited. And when the house was legally mine, I sold the bed they worshipped and watched them beg on their knees for a mercy they never gave me. Wait, before we go any further, I gotta ask, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Gloria stood at the threshold of her son's grand two-story home, a soft smile fixed on her face as the heavy wooden door swung open. Mark didn't hug her. He barely stepped aside. "You made good time," he muttered, tapping his phone. "Vanessa's in the back." Inside, the air was cold and overly perfumed, like a department store trying too hard. Crystal vases lined the hallway. Everything screamed new money, shiny, overdone, and heartless. "Hi, Mom," Vanessa said, voice sugary and sharp. She glanced up from folding throw blankets on the sectional. "Sorry it's a bit chaotic. We're reorganizing." Gloria set her overnight bag down carefully. "That's fine, dear. I don't take up much space." Vanessa's smile tightened. "About that. So, the guest room is full right now. Storage boxes? Holiday stuff? We had nowhere else to put them." "Oh." Gloria blinked. "Well, I can help move things. I don't mind." Vanessa laughed, short and fake. "No, no, too much trouble. We already made space for you in the den." She gestured toward the back hallway. Mark was suddenly very interested in the game on TV. Gloria followed her into the den. The room was clean but stark. Bare walls, a cold tile floor, and a thin blanket folded on a yoga mat. "Here you go," Vanessa said brightly. "Should be cozy." The words barely registered. Gloria looked down at the mat. No pillow, no real blanket, not even a sheet. "This is where I'll be sleeping?" she asked softly. Vanessa shrugged, arms crossed. "We need the guest bed for storage. Hope that's not a problem." A silence thickened in the air. Gloria's pride swelled in her throat but didn't make it to her voice. She forced a smile. "Of course. I don't mind." From the hallway, a quieter voice. "Grandma, this isn't right." Emily stood at the edge of the doorframe, arms folded tightly across her chest. Her hair was messy from school, backpack still slung over one shoulder. She looked angry, not just embarrassed, angry. "It's just for a night," Gloria whispered back, placing a gentle hand on her granddaughter's wrist. "Don't worry." Emily hesitated. "You should take my bed." "No, sweetheart. You'll need rest for school. I'll be fine." But she wasn't. That night, Gloria lay stiffly on the yoga mat, the chill from the tile seeping through her bone. She could hear Mark and Vanessa upstairs, laughing at some late-night reality show. The bed creaked with comfort above her. She turned to her side, slowly, joints protesting. She adjusted the blanket, if it could even be called that, and stared at the shadows on the wall. Something cracked inside her, soft but permanent. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to endure. The next morning, Carol's voice sliced through the silence of the breakfast table at the diner. "They made you sleep where?" she snapped, nearly knocking over her coffee. "On the floor." "In the den?" Gloria replied, stirring her tea with steady hands. "No pillow. Just a mat." Carol's nostrils flared. "You raised that boy better than this." "I thought I had," Gloria said. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "But I suppose I taught him how to take, not how to give." Carol leaned in, lowering her voice. "Don't let them do this to you again. You've got rights, Gloria. Paperwork, receipts." Gloria folded her hands slowly, thoughtfully. "They think I'm beneath them," she said. Carol raised an eyebrow. "So?" Gloria reached into her purse, pulled out a small leather notebook, and flipped it open to a dog-eared page lined with dates and dollar amount. Her handwriting was meticulous, precise. "Let's see what they're standing on." The diner napkin had soaked up 2 coffee rings by the time Gloria opened her leather notebook flat on the table between her and Carol. Its worn edges looked like they'd been thumbed through 1,000 times, and they had. "I never wanted to keep score," Gloria murmured, adjusting her glasses. "But I never forgot a number." Carol leaned in, sharp-eyed. "Let's start at the top." Gloria turned the page. Her fingers didn't shake. This wasn't anger. It was control. "March 2017, she said. "Down payment for their house, $42,000. Mark said it was temporary, until the loan cleared. It never did." Carol's mouth twisted. You wire it or write a check. Certified check. Gloria flipped to the copy, neatly folded and clipped inside the page sleeve. I kept the receipt. And the thank you card Vanessa never signed. Carol smirked. Sentimental and admissible. Next page. Dining set, Gloria said. That restoration hardware monstrosity Vanessa picked out. 8 grand. I bought it. She didn't even let me sit at it for Thanksgiving. Carol whistled. You've basically furnished their lives. Gloria turned another page. Couch, bed frame, memory foam mattress, kitchen appliances, entryway chandelier. Vanessa said made her feel like a senator's wife. She should feel like a felon's wife, Carol muttered, snatching the receipt. Holy hell, this is enough to put a lien on the furniture at least. Gloria didn't respond immediately. She was staring at the final page in the notebook, a black and white printout of the house deed. Did you know, she said, quietly, that my name is still on the property? Second line, co-owner. Carol's head jerked up. What? Gloria's voice stayed calm. Mark said they needed it to qualify for a better rate, promised they'd refinance in a year. That was 5 years ago. Carol reached across the table, resting her hand over Gloria's. Honey, you didn't just give them furniture. You gave them their castle. Gloria smiled, thin and without warmth. And now I'm going to take it back, piece by piece. Her phone buzzed softly in her purse. She pulled it out, expecting a message from the library board or a reminder for her next book club. Instead, it was from Emily, a single image. Vanessa, mid-laugh, standing in their kitchen, holding Gloria's yoga mat in one hand and mock posing like a hunchback. The caption, hastily scrawled on the bottom of the image, Queen Gloria on her royal floor throne. Gloria's stomach turned, but her face didn't change. Another ping. Emily again. Sorry. She posted it to her stories. I screen capped before it disappeared. Carol saw the phone, blinked, then narrowed her eyes. That's mockery. Public. You think it's gone? I can have someone retrieve the metadata. That's evidence, Gloria. I don't need her to be embarrassed, Gloria said. I need her to be unprepared. She stood, smoothing her jacket. Her voice took on the firm, efficient tone she once used when disciplining high school students at the library. Come on, I've seen enough. It's time I called someone who knows what to do with this mess. Carol nodded. You thinking legal or tactical? Both, Gloria said. Howard Lee. Carol let out a low whistle. That real estate guy? You kept his card? I kept everything. Gloria slid her notebook back into her purse, zipped it with intention, and strode toward the door without waiting for the check. Behind her, Carol called out with a dry laugh. You about to flip the whole table, aren't you? Gloria didn't answer, but her eyes were already locked on the exit, like a woman who'd spent enough time beneath her son's roof, and now remembered exactly who paid for Gloria, stood just inside the front door of her son's house, not as a guest, not as family, but as a silent appraiser. She wore her usual cardigan and orthopedic flats, but this time, she carried a clipboard. Carol trailed behind her, adjusting the strap on a crossbody bag that held a pocket-sized Nikon and a folder full of sticky notes. You sure no one's home? She whispered. Vanessa's at her facial appointment, Gloria replied calmly. Mark's still at work. Emily left the back door unlatched. Carol gave a small, impressed nod. She's got more spine than her parents combined. The house was quiet, eerily so without Vanessa's voice echoing through the halls. The scent of lavender diffusers clung to the air like pretense. Gloria moved with purpose, scanning each room as if walking through a museum of her own unpaid generosity. In the dining room, she stopped. That's the set, she said, tapping her pen against the polished mahogany. Chippendale style, imported, Vanessa insisted. Over 12,000 with delivery. Carol crouched to check the base, scribbling down the serial number. Still pristine. She probably doesn't let anyone sit here without a linen test. Next, the living room. Gloria paused at the oversized cream-colored sectional, the one Vanessa had claimed was just the thing for hosting real adults. I paid for that too, Gloria said, her voice devoid of bitterness now, just cold, factual. They moved room to room. Gloria's hand skimmed along a 4-poster bed she'd never been invited to see. She paused at an antique grandfather clock nestled beside the stairwell. Ethan Allen, early 1900s replica. Cost me 3 Social Security checks. Carol snapped a photo, then another of the matching armoire. You bought this much, Gloria? Gloria didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the bedspread, cream velvet, monogrammed, regal. Carol straightened up, voice hushed. It's like you furnished a palace and they made you sleep in the moat. Upstairs, Emily waited in her bedroom, flipping through a binder of receipts Gloria had asked her to print. When the two women entered, she handed it over wordlessly. Every piece you mentioned, Emily whispered. I found photos of Mom tagging the brands on Instagram, and invoices from her email she forgot to delete. Carol whistled. This girl's got a career in intelligence. Emily didn't smile. She looked worried. If she finds out what you're doing, she will, Gloria said simply. But not today. Emily hesitated, eyes darting to the hallway. She'll lose it, Grandma. Gloria closed the binder. Then let's surprise her. Back at Gloria's bungalow that evening, the three of them spread out across her kitchen table, receipts, printouts, photographs, serial logs all stacked in surgical order. The energy in the room had shifted. There was no more dread, only preparation. Carol clicked the folder shut. This is enough to trigger a lien, Gloria. Every item with a paper trail. Hell, even some without. They're living in a showroom you built. I know, Gloria said, her tone low but anchored. And they don't even see it. Carol picked up her phone. You want me to call Howard? No, Gloria said. She reached for her own cell, already queued to her contacts. She tapped the name herself. Howard Lee picked up on the second ring. Gloria Mitchell, she said. I'm ready to file. There was a pause on the line, then his voice came through, measured and professional. Good. I'll prepare the lien filings in the morning. You'll be listed as creditor for unpaid household loans and co-owned assets. We'll move fast before they catch wind. Gloria exhaled, long and quiet. Howard's voice lowered. Are you sure, Gloria? This is war. She looked around her modest, paid-off kitchen, every item chosen with care, every corner spotless. And yet, this was the only place in the world where she wasn't made to feel like a burden. I didn't start it, she said, but I'll finish it. She hung up, then looked at Carol, then Emily. By next week, she said, they'll know exactly what it feels like to have the ground pulled out from under them. The knock came at 10:17 a.m. Vanessa opened the door in silk pajamas, hair half curled, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. She barely looked up. If this is about HOA fees, my husband handles. Vanessa Mitchell? The man in the navy blazer didn't blink. Yes? You've been served. A folder hit her chest with a soft thwop. Before she could reply, the process server turned on his heel and walked away down the driveway. Vanessa stood frozen, coffee cooling in her hand, mascara only half applied. She looked down at the envelope. Bold lettering read, Notice of Asset Seizure, enclosed, lien and inventory summary, from inside the house. Babe, who was that? Mark called from the living room, barely glancing away from the muted stock ticker on TV. Vanessa stormed in, flung the folder onto the marble coffee table and jabbed a finger at it. She's suing us, she hissed. Your mother is suing us. Mark picked up the document, scanned the first page, then the second. His brow furrowed. Furniture lien? Creditor claim? What the hell is this? She listed every damn piece in this house. The bed, the dining room, the armoire. She says she bought all of it. Because she did, came a voice from the stairs. They both turned. Emily stood halfway down, arms crossed, phone in hand. She had been recording for at least a minute. What did you say? Mark snapped. She paid for it all, Emily repeated. You two just acted like it fell from the sky. Mark's face flushed. You've been feeding her this? You little traitor. Vanessa, meanwhile, was pacing. Her voice was climbing in pitch, shrill, manic. She can't do this. This has to be illegal. We let her stay here for free, and this is how she repays us? Emily's eyes narrowed. You made her sleep on a floor. Vanessa whipped around, her face red. Don't start with me, Missy. Mark slammed the folder shut. This isn't happening. I'll call a lawyer. We'll get it thrown out. From the doorway, a small rustle. A neighbor walking his dog paused at the open front door, glancing in. Another couple across the street peeked over their hedges. Emily raised her phone higher. Say it louder, she said, so the whole neighborhood hears. Vanessa let out a high-pitched, inhuman sound and slapped the phone from Emily's hand. It hit the ground with a hard crack. Mark shouted, Enough! Silence fell, thick and hot. Emily, expression unreadable, bent down and picked up her phone. The screen was spiderwebbed, but still glowing. It was already backed up, she said calmly, every word of it. She turned and walked upstairs, her bare feet silent on the steps. Vanessa sank into the couch like the wind had been knocked out of her. Her hand trembled as she reached again for the notice. She's bluffing. Gloria's too soft for this. Too old. Mark didn't answer. He just stared at the bold letterhead again. 2 blocks away, Gloria watered her front garden in a wide-brimmed hat. The summer sun cast long shadows, but she worked slowly, deliberately, clippers at her side, misting hose in hand. Carol pulled up and stepped out, eyes scanning Gloria's face for any sign of nerves. "You hear anything yet?" Gloria nodded once. "Emily sent me a photo." Vanessa tore up the envelope on their lawn. Carol grinned. "I'd pay extra to see that in person." Gloria didn't smile, but her eyes gleamed. "The floor is cold, but the law isn't." Carol folded her arms, watching the sprinklers arc over the trimmed bushes. "You know people are talking, right? First the family drama, now this notice. It's making the rounds." Gloria gently adjusted the bloom on a rose. "Good," she said. "Let them whisper." Just then, across the street, a neighbor on a porch faked casual as she stared a little too long before ducking back inside. Carol chuckled. Stage 1 of revenge complete. Gloria turned off the hose, wiped her hands, and stepped inside. The phone was already ringing. She let it ring twice before answering. "Mrs. Mitchell," came Howard's voice. "We're officially filed and active. Phase 2 begins tomorrow." Gloria's hand hovered over her notebook, still open on the table from the night before. "Good," she said softly. "Then let's move." The courthouse was gray, boxy, and indifferent. Just like Mark, Gloria sat upright on the wooden bench outside courtroom 3B, dressed in a soft gray suit and low heels. Her hands were folded neatly on her lap, a leather binder resting beside her like a shield. She looked calm, not because she wasn't angry, but because she'd finally found her footing. Howard Lee stood beside her, flipping through paperwork with surgical focus. "They filed the petition 3 days ago. Emergency guardianship. Mark's claiming you're mentally unfit." Gloria raised an eyebrow. "Because I sent a lien notice?" Howard offered a half smile. "He says you're forgetful, impulsive, and financially reckless." Carol, sitting on Gloria's other side, scoffed. "The man once bought a Bitcoin miner and a hot tub in the same month." On her dime, Howard chuckled without humor and checked his watch. "Judge Reynolds doesn't suffer fools. But be sharp. This isn't about logic. It's about perception." The bailiff stepped into the hall. "Mitchell versus Mitchell. Guardianship motion. You're up." Inside the courtroom, Mark looked uncomfortable in his navy blazer. Too tight. Vanessa wore a conservative blouse that didn't quite hide her rage. Her smile was stretched plastic over a sneer. Emily sat behind Gloria, earbuds in but volume off. She watched her father like a hawk. When he glanced back at her, she didn't blink. "All rise," the clerk said. Judge Reynolds entered, robe swishing like a guillotine falling. Mark's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we're here because my client has growing concerns regarding his mother's declining faculties, erratic financial behavior, delusions of property ownership, aggressive filings. It's alarming." Judge Reynolds glanced over his glasses. "Does she appear delusional to you, counsel?" "Well, respectfully, because she appears seated, calm, and notably more prepared than your client." Murmurs rippled in the gallery. Vanessa stiffened. Howard rose, handed the clerk a folder. "Your Honor, Exhibit A. Certified copies of household purchases totaling over $85,000. Exhibit B. The original deed listing Ms. Mitchell as co-owner. Exhibit C. Signed receipts, all from Ms. Mitchell's accounts." The judge flipped through the file slowly. Mark leaned forward, voice raised. "She thinks she owns our house. It was our money. Vanessa and I made that a home." From behind him, Emily stood. "I'd like to speak." Reynolds gestured. "State your name for the record." "Emily Mitchell. I'm Gloria's granddaughter. You may proceed." Emily walked to the witness stand, calm but clearly bracing herself. She didn't look at her parents. "She's not unstable. They made her sleep on the floor. No bed, just a yoga mat." She paused. "And then Mom posted about it. Mocked her." Reynolds looked up. "Is that true, Mrs. Mitchell?" Vanessa shifted in her seat. "It was a joke." Reynolds set the file down. "You posted a joke about your elderly mother-in-law sleeping on a tile floor?" Vanessa said nothing. Mark exploded. "She's turning my own daughter against me." "No, you did that." Emily muttered as she stepped down. Judge Reynolds looked tired. Petition denied. No guardianship. No emergency hold. What I see here is a capable woman attempting to enforce her legal right. Something this court encourages, not punishes. Mark slumped. Howard leaned in and whispered to Gloria. Told you he doesn't suffer fools. Court adjourned. As they stepped out into the hallway, Vanessa hissed under her breath. You're playing dirty, Gloria. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Gloria didn't stop walking. I'm playing fair. You just never thought the rules applied to you. Howard's phone buzzed. He checked it, then slowed to a stop. He tapped the screen once, then turned it toward Gloria. A bank document, digital signature logs. One name appeared on a failed refinance application. Hers, her signature. Only, she'd never signed it. Howard looked at her. They tried to refinance the house 6 months ago. With your name. It didn't go through, but the attempt left a paper trail. Carol's jaw dropped. You mean forgery, Howard said. Gloria took the phone and stared at the document. Her breath was steady, but her eyes sharpened like blades. They wrote me out, she said softly. Now, I'll write them down. Gloria stood at the teller window of Cyprus First National Bank, her expression unreadable beneath her wide-brimmed hat. Her eyes flicked over the printed loan documents the bank manager had just laid on the counter. The signature stared back at her in looping cursive. Gloria L. Mitchell, but she had never signed it. Can I keep this copy? She asked, voice calm. The manager hesitated. We'll provide a redacted version for your attorney. But yes, we have the IP address, timestamp, and access trail. Whoever submitted this knew what they were doing, except for the part where they needed your actual consent. Gloria offered a tight nod. They always skip the consent part. Thank you. Howard waited for her just outside the glass doors, thumbing through emails on his phone. When he saw her expression, he stepped forward. They confirmed it, Gloria said. Digital forgery. Vanessa uploaded it. Howard didn't react right away. Then it's official. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a neatly clipped folder, and flipped to a pre-drafted form already filled in with names, dates, and case numbers. I'm filing criminal fraud today. Mortgage fraud and attempted identity theft. Good. Gloria replied softly. They stepped into his black SUV, the silence humming like a fuse lit beneath both of them. Back at Mark and Vanessa's house, the mood had shifted from frantic to volcanic. Vanessa paced the kitchen in full meltdown, barefoot, wine-stained coffee mug in hand, lashes half peeled from one corner. She's going to ruin us. Over a goddamn refinance? Mark sat at the kitchen island, rubbing his temples. Would you calm down and let me think? I used her name for one thing. One thing. And it didn't even go through. What's the big deal? Mark stared at her like she was radioactive. You forged a signature on a federally regulated document. Vanessa whirled. Oh, now you're an expert in banking law? You dragged me into this mess. No, she snapped. I saved us. You were too proud to ask her for help again, and we were drowning. Emily watched from the hallway, unnoticed. She had her phone in hand, not to record, but to be ready. Because everything felt like it was cracking. Vanessa slammed the mug into the sink where it shattered. She's bluffing. Gloria's bluffing. She always folds. Emily stepped into the kitchen. Not anymore. Vanessa flinched. You spying now? Emily met her eyes without fear. She's not soft. You just bullied her into silence for so long. You forgot she had teeth. Mark's voice cracked with frustration. Just go back upstairs, Emily. No. Her voice sharpened. You two made her sleep on the floor and mocked her. She owns this house. And now she has receipts? And the law. This is your mess. Vanessa threw her hands up. You think this is about a damn yoga mat? It's about everything, Emily snapped. Every lie, every condescension, every time you made her feel like a ghost in her own bloodline. Mark stood. We are still your parents. Exactly, Emily said. And you should have acted like it. She turned and walked away, leaving behind a silence even louder than Vanessa's shrieking had been. Later that evening, Gloria sat at her kitchen table, her fingers tracing the edge of the fraud report Howard had emailed over. Carol read it aloud with her glasses low on her nose. Attempted financial exploitation of a senior, falsified cosigner authorization, electronic trace confirms document originated from Vanessa Mitchell's home, IP address. She looked up slowly. Well, damn, this just got criminal. Gloria nodded, eyes still on the page. They wrote me out, she repeated. Now I'm writing them into the record. Carol leaned back. You want this going public? I want it going official, Gloria said. The public part will take care of itself. Her phone buzzed. It was Emily. A text. Mom's yelling again, but Dad's quiet now. Think it's finally sinking in. Then another. I'm proud of you, Grandma. They'll finally face it. Gloria stared at the message for a long moment. Then she reached for her notebook, flipped to a clean page and wrote 2 words at the top. Fraud charges. Beneath it, she added a small checkmark. 1 box down. Many more to go. The neighborhood group chat lit up before sunrise. Something's going on at the Mitchell's place? Cops? News crew? Didn't she just throw that garden party? What happened? I heard it's fraud. Like, serious fraud. By 9:15 a.m., a Channel 6 van idled on the curb outside Mark and Vanessa's home, antenna raised, camera aimed squarely at the front door. The producer had received an anonymous tip, complete with court documents and timestamps. Gloria had made no such call, but she didn't need to. The moment her fraud complaint became public record, the story was inevitable. Vanessa stood in the driveway barefoot, robe cinched tight, shouting at a woman holding a microphone. This is harassment. We haven't been charged with anything. You think it's ethical to just show up at people's homes? Mrs. Mitchell, the documents name you directly. Your IP address was used to submit a falsified mortgage application using your mother-in-law's name. Can you confirm or deny that? I don't owe you a damn explanation, Vanessa screamed, pointing at the camera. Get that thing off my lawn or I'll sue your whole station. Emily stood inside the house, phone pressed to the glass, filming it all. Her expression was unreadable. She didn't say a word until she hit post. Clip uploaded. 9:46 a.m. Caption: She made my grandma sleep on the floor. Now she's screaming on her own front lawn. Within 30 minutes, the video had 14,000 views. By lunch, it was 150,000. Gloria sat at her kitchen table, a teacup resting delicately in her hand. She wasn't watching the clip. She didn't need to. Carol had already shown it to her twice. Still trending, Carol said, half chuckling. Your daughter-in-law's public tantrum is the #1 clip on TikTok, and the second on Twitter behind a baby goat in pajamas. Gloria stirred her tea slowly, eyes on the window. She always thought she could scream her way out of truth, she murmured. Now she's screaming her way into it. Carol took a sip of her own drink and sighed contentedly. Reputation's harder to scrub than floors. Gloria's lips twitched, almost a smile. On the counter, her notebook sat open. She quietly ticked another box beneath fraud charges. Media fallout initiated. The doorbell rang. Howard stood on her front step, sleeves rolled up, briefcase in hand. It's time, he said. Inside Gloria's living room, he laid out documents like blueprints of a battlefield. The fraud claim opened the door, he explained, tapping a clause. This next move drives it home. Since you're a listed creditor and partial co-owner, and they failed to resolve their debt after written notice, we can force a foreclosure auction. Gloria nodded, face calm. Carol raised an eyebrow. You're seizing the house? Not yet, Howard said. We're auctioning the assets first. The lien gives you the right to liquidate any furniture or property you purchase. Carol blinked. You're going after the bed. Gloria didn't look up. The very one they wouldn't let me sleep in. Howard slid a final form across the table. This will notify the auction house to begin collection within 72 hours. They'll send movers. Then the public sale date gets posted. Gloria picked up a pen and signed. Across town, the fallout was escalating. A neighbor, Mrs. Kirkpatrick, had sent Emily's video to the HOA. Not to be a gossip, she wrote, but this behavior reflects poorly on the entire community. The HOA president, who once called Vanessa refreshing, responded, Agreed. We're monitoring the situation. By late afternoon, Mark and Vanessa had gone inside and pulled the blinds, but damage, once viral, didn't vanish, it multiplied. Emily stood at her bedroom window, watching the Channel 6 crew pack up. She pulled out her phone and sent a text. Grandma, they're unraveling. What happens next? A moment later, Gloria replied, the same thing that happens in every story. The lies get auctioned, the truth gets paid. The trucks rolled in at 9 a.m. sharp, unmarked but unmistakable. 3 men in gray polo shirts and steel-toed boots stepped onto the Mitchells' perfectly manicured lawn with clipboards in hand and moving blankets over their shoulders. The lead one knocked, just once. Mark opened the door, still half-dressed, tie loose around his neck. Morning, "We're from Harris County Auction Services," the man said. "Got a court-ordered lien execution. List of assets is on file." Mark blinked. "Wait. Now?" "Now," the man said, already stepping through. Vanessa stormed in from the kitchen. "You can't just barge into someone's home and take things?" "We can," he said calmly, "if a lien's been approved and proper notice has been served." It was. Vanessa's voice cracked. "But that was her. That was Gloria. She's just trying to humiliate us." The lead mover raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this is itemized by receipts. These aren't your things." Vanessa whirled toward Mark. "Do something." But Mark just stood there, silent, arms limp at his sides, watching as one mover wrapped the luxury dining table in a padded quilt and another rolled a dolly beneath the velvet-tufted couch. Emily sat on the bottom step of the staircase, watching it all unfold with a stillness she hadn't felt in weeks. Her phone was in her lap, unused. She didn't need to record this one. "This feels like justice," she whispered. Vanessa rounded on her. "You're enjoying this?" Emily looked up at her, eyes dry. "Number. I'm remembering." She stood and walked away, leaving Vanessa sputtering in the middle of the living room. Upstairs, the movers entered the master bedroom. The four-poster king bed, ivory leather with gold trim, was next on the list. One man snapped photos for inventory, while the others disassembled the frame with practiced efficiency. Vanessa appeared in the doorway, breath shallow, clutching a crumpled silk robe like armor. "You can't take that bed. It's our marriage bed." The lead mover, now used to her yelling, replied simply, "Receipt says otherwise. Paid in full by Gloria Mitchell. Delivered to this address, March 18th, 2019. Vanessa let out a guttural scream. She reached for the headboard as they lifted it, gripping it like a lifeline. "This is my house. You can't just—" Mark stepped in then, his voice quiet but firm. "Let it go, Vanessa." She turned to him, mouth open, but the fight was gone. The humiliation had finally eclipsed her entitlement. Downstairs, Carol watched from the sidewalk, arms crossed over a denim jacket, sipping coffee from a thermos with a barely contained grin. "They're pulling her kingdom out one screw at a time," she muttered. Gloria stood beside her, silent. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She just watched as a velvet armchair, a Tiffany lamp, and finally the dining hutch were rolled down the driveway and loaded into the truck. "They even took the wine fridge," Carol added. "Cold justice." Gloria finally spoke. "Justice has a hammer," she said, voice even. "Just like auctions." Carol turned to her, smiling. "And gavels." Howard pulled up a moment later, stepping out in slacks and sunglasses. "They'll inventory everything and store it for 10 days before the sale," he said. "Vanessa and Mark are legally barred from interfering. If they try, it's contempt." Gloria nodded. Howard added, "Once this auction clears, we apply the proceeds to their outstanding debt. If it falls short, we move to the next phase." Carol blinked. "Which is?" Howard looked from Carol to Gloria. "Foreclosure." Gloria didn't flinch. She simply reached into her purse, pulled out her notebook, and drew another checkmark beneath the last entry. "Arrow auction initiated." Then she flipped to a new page. At the top, she wrote, "Phase 2. Take the house." The auction house smelled faintly of dust, pine cleaner and ending. Rows of mismatched chairs lined the hall, retirees in ball caps, antique dealers scribbling notes, silent bidders in polos and Ray-Ban. At the front of the room, a series of high-resolution photos flashed on a mounted screen. Chandelier, antique hutch, tufted sectional, monogrammed bed. Gloria sat in the third row, purse in her lap, spine perfectly straight. She wore navy slacks, a cream blouse, and a watch that no longer needed to tell her anything she didn't already know. Howard stood near the back wall, arms folded, quietly observing. Carol sat beside Gloria, flipping through the printed auction catalog, pausing on the photo of the four-poster king bed. Page 12. "Here comes the crown jewel." The auctioneer stepped up to the podium. "Next item, lot number 174. Custom luxury king bed, ivory leather, gold trim, restoration import, lightly used. Opening bid at $1,500. Gloria didn't flinch. The bid shot up fast. 2 men in the third row, 1 woman on the left side, then a phone bidder in a suit, probably buying for some client who wanted a centerpiece for their Aspen chalet. 7,000. Now 7,500. Do I hear 8? 8,000 once. Vanessa burst through the side doors like a cannonball. Her heels clacked violently on the concrete floor, hair wild, eyes rimmed red. "Stop the sale!" she shrieked. "You don't get to sell my bed!" The auctioneer froze mid-chant. Two security guards immediately moved toward her. "This is theft!" she wailed, voice cracking. "She's insane! She's senile! That's my bed! She's ruining our lives!" From the front row, someone muttered, "This just got good." The guards reached her, trying to escort her back toward the exit. "Don't touch me. Do you know who I am? This is illegal. You can't do this. I have rights." "Ma'am, please step outside or we'll call the sheriff." "I am calling the sheriff." A flashbulb went off, someone taking pictures from their phone, and from her chair in row 3, Gloria calmly sipped water from her thermos. Vanessa locked eyes with her. "You're sick, Gloria. Sick. You're nothing but a vindictive old—" The guards pulled her toward the door. "You slept on our floor and now you're selling our life. What kind of mother does that?" Carol leaned over to Gloria, whispering, "The kind that's got receipts and a hammer behind her name." Gloria said nothing, just watched, expression unreadable. Once Vanessa was out, the auctioneer cleared his throat. "Where were we?" "Ah, 8,000. Do I hear 85? 85! Shouted someone in the back. 9,000, 9,5. The final gavel fell at $11,200. Applause from a few of the bidders. Not out of celebration, just admiration. Gloria nodded slightly. Howard met her near the side exit. "That's the last of the big-ticket items. Total proceeds after fees. Just shy of $63,000. She adjusted her purse strap. "And the mortgage balance?" 62 and change. "We can buy out the remainder of the note. Today, if you want." Carol blinked. "Wait. You're going to pay off their house?" Howard raised an eyebrow. "Which means she becomes the sole line holder. She can file for immediate foreclosure under default condition. Technically, she'd be evicting them from her own property." Gloria didn't hesitate. "Do it." Howard nodded and walked to his car, already dialing. Carol stared at her. "You just bought their roof." Gloria's lips curled, just slightly. "They thought I was beneath them. Now I own the floor, the ceiling, and everything in between." Carol smiled. "Cold." "No," Gloria said, turning toward the car. "Just precise." At the edge of the parking lot, Mark stood beside a cracked pay meter, arms crossed, watching them leave. He didn't shout. He didn't follow. He just glared, as if trying to remember when, exactly, he stopped being the one in control. Gloria met his stare briefly through the windshield as Howard's car pulled away. Then, almost too soft to hear, she whispered to herself, "The floor feels warmer now." The notice went up at dawn, taped with official adhesive to the center of the Mitchells' front door. A stark white 8.5 by 11 bearing the seal of the Harris County Sheriff's Department, and a single, devastating word at the top, eviction. The neighbors noticed before Mark and Vanessa did. Mrs. Kirkpatrick gasped behind her blinds. The walkers across the street paused mid-jog, pretending to stretch while snapping a photo. By 8 a.m., the community Facebook group had it posted 3 times from 3 angles. By 8:05, the whispers had begun. "She's foreclosing on her own son? She owns part of the house. Now she owns all of it." Inside, Mark stood frozen in the hallway, still in his robe, staring at the notice through the glass. The words blurred behind the fog of disbelief. Vanessa came around the corner, holding a mug she hadn't yet poured coffee into. "What's that?" Mark didn't move. Vanessa peered past him and dropped the mug. "It's shattered." "No," she whispered. No. No, she wouldn't. But Gloria would. And Gloria had. Across town, Gloria clipped herbs from the small garden along the back fence of her bungalow. Parsley, thyme, and a single stubborn rosemary plant. The morning sun warmed her hand, and the silence around her was soft, even sweet. Behind her, Emily stood on the porch steps, watching with a reverence usually reserved for heroes. "You really did it," Emily said. "You're stronger than them." Gloria looked up from the rosemary. "I was never weaker, just quieter." Emily stepped down, hugged her without a word. It lingered. There was something deeper in it than simple gratitude. "You know," Gloria murmured, pulling back, "strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it just signs the right papers. Sheriff's deputies arrived at the Mitchell residence just after 10 a.m., squad lights spinning silently like a slow blue metronome. A growing group of neighbors watched from porches and driveways as two uniformed officers knocked twice and handed Mark the final paperwork. Vanessa was nowhere in sight. Mark's hands trembled as he signed the acknowledgement form. "You have 72 hours to vacate the property," one officer said. "You may request an extension, but the lien holder has filed for immediate transfer." Mark glanced up, his voice hollow. "The lien holder's my mother." The deputy gave a practiced shrug. "Still legally binding." Mark looked out across the lawn at the small crowd gathering behind hedges and driveways. He felt the heat of shame crawling up his neck. Back inside, Vanessa finally appeared, lipstick smeared, barefoot, gripping her phone with white knuckles. "She's not done," she hissed. "She thinks this is over. But it's not." Mark said nothing. Vanessa's voice rose. "She wants to humiliate us? Fine. But I'll drag her down with us. If I go down, she burns too." Mark looked at her. Eyes sunken, voice flat. "You already lit the match." At Gloria's house, Carol popped the cork on a cheap bottle of champagne and poured it into mismatched glasses. "To poetic justice," Carol toasted. "To queens reclaiming their crowns." Gloria raised her glass. "To truth, with a paper trail." They clinked. Carol grinned. "You know your local legend now, right? The librarian who foreclosed on her own kid? You're going to be in someone's screenplay." "I don't want to be a story," Gloria said, sipping. "I just wanted to be heard." Emily sat beside her, scrolling silently on her phone. Then she looked up. "She's not taking this well." Carol raised an eyebrow. "You mean Vanessa?" Emily nodded. "She's posting cryptic stuff, vague threats. Deleted half her photos. Says she's not going down alone." Gloria set her glass down, calm. "I expected that. She's not rational, Grandma." "No," Gloria said. "But she's predictable." Carol leaned forward. "You think she'll actually try something?" Gloria looked out the window toward the driveway. And without turning back, she said, quiet and firm, "I think she already has." The county courthouse smelled like old air and fresh panic. Vanessa sat at the defendant's table in a navy pantsuit 2 sizes too tight, hair pulled back in a bun that couldn't contain the static in her posture. Her fingers twitched against the polished wood as the assistant district attorney rose and approached the bench. "Your Honor, the state submits Exhibit A, digitally logged refinance documents submitted under the name of Gloria L. Mitchell. Accompanying metadata shows the submission originated from the defendant's home IP address." Judge Reynolds didn't flinch. He just extended one hand and flipped open the file. Beside him, the court clerk tapped at her keyboard. In the gallery, reporters shifted, pens poised. A local blog editor live-tweeted from row 3. Mark sat in the back corner. His tie was askew, his face pale. He didn't sit beside Vanessa. Gloria entered from the side door quietly, escorted by Howard. She wore her courtroom gray suit again, pressed, proper, unshakable. Emily followed close behind, clutching a manila folder and a quiet rage she no longer tried to hide. "Ms. Mitchell," the ADA said, turning to Gloria, "can you confirm you ever authorized this loan application?" "I did not," Gloria replied, voice calm but clipped. "Have you ever created or used the email address listed on the application?" "No." "Did you give consent to your son or daughter-in-law to submit documents in your name?" "Never." She sat back, composed. She didn't need to win the room. The facts already had. The prosecutor shifted to Emily. "Ms. Mitchell," he said, "you mentioned you had digital communications?" Emily rose, walked to the front and handed over the folder. "Screenshots," she said. "From Mom's phone. She never logged out of her email. It auto-forwarded to the cloud." "Objection?" "Sustained in part," Judge Reynolds said. "Let me see them first." He took the file, brows furrowing as he read. "Let the record reflect this includes instructions to falsify authorization, a draft email to the bank, and multiple deleted texts referencing a backup signature plan." Vanessa stiffened. "Mrs. Mitchell," the judge said coldly, "do you deny that these messages originated from your account?" Vanessa's lips parted, but no words came out. The silence was long, brutal. Finally, her voice came, cracked and cornered. I panicked. We were behind on payments. She owed us for everything anyway. She lived rent-free. She filed a lien, not a lawsuit," the judge snapped. "You answered with a felony." Vanessa blinked fast. She was destroying our life. No, Reynolds said. You did. The gavel fell with a single final thud. Guilty on all counts: felony mortgage fraud, elder exploitation, and attempted identity theft. Mark closed his eyes. The courtroom let out a collective breath. Sentencing came swiftly. 6 months in county jail, Reynolds said, followed by 12 months supervised release, financial restitution to be determined. Vanessa sagged like something had snapped inside her. She turned toward Mark. Say something. But Mark just stared at her. Blank, as though seeing a stranger for the first time. She looked to Gloria next. Please, Vanessa choked. I'm sorry. Gloria didn't blink. You're only sorry you got caught. 2. Bailiffs approached. Hands behind your back, one said. Vanessa didn't resist. The cuffs clicked. She flinched at the cold metal. As they escorted her out, her voice trailed behind like a smear. I gave you a family. I gave you a home. Gloria rose, her purse already over her shoulder. You tried to take mine, she replied simply. At the back of the room, Carol nodded to herself. Still not enough jail time. Outside, the courthouse steps were lined with press. Emily held her phone close but didn't post. Not yet. Howard caught up with Gloria as they stepped into the shade of the portico. You did it, he said. Gloria shook her head. Number I held them accountable. There's a difference. Mark exited minutes later, dazed, adjusting his blazer. He looked at Gloria, but this time didn't speak. He just kept walking. Carol watched him disappear into the parking lot. Think he's finally hit bottom? Gloria exhaled slowly. Not yet. She pulled her notebook from her purse. At the top of the next blank page she wrote, eviction, conviction. Then, after a small pause, she added, next, the curb. They came at noon. 2 sheriff's deputies in beige uniforms, faces flat and unreadable, walked up the stone path to the Mitchell home. No sirens, no handcuffs, just the quiet thud of boots and the sharp knock of inevitability. Mark opened the door slowly. He was in jeans and a polo that hung off him like it didn't quite know where to rest. Mr. Mitchell, the taller deputy said, you've been served final eviction. Time's up. Mark didn't argue. He just nodded and stepped aside. In silence, they moved through the house. Each room had already been stripped by the auctioneers. What remained was only what Gloria had never touched. A cracked mirror, some mismatched mugs, a twin mattress propped against a wall like a ghost of comfort. Grab what you can, the shorter deputy said. Furniture goes to the curb. Mark crossed the living room like a man walking underwater. He picked up a duffel bag already half-packed, glanced once at the wall where the family photos used to be, and walked out the front door. The sun hit him like a slap. Outside, movers were already unloading the final remnants: 2 chairs, a particle board dresser, a fake ficus tree with dust on its leaves. They dropped it all on the sidewalk with mechanical indifference. Each thud echoed louder than the last. Emily stood across the street, phone in hand. She wasn't smiling, just filming. She zoomed in on the curb, on her father's face as he bent to retrieve a box that had spilled open. Old paperwork, a broken frame. She added a caption, "It ends on the floor." Then she hit post. Inside Gloria's bungalow, the phone buzzed on the counter. Carol picked it up, scrolled, and whistled. It's up already. 1,000 views in 20 minutes. Looks like your granddaughter has a talent for justice. Gloria didn't reply. She was in the living room, folding a clean Afghan and setting it neatly over the armrest of her favorite chair. The same chair she'd once offered to sleep in, back when she still thought kindness might be enough. Emily entered a moment later, breath shallow from walking fast. He's sitting on the steps, she said. No one's helping him. He's just there. Gloria nodded once, as if checking something off in her mind. She walked to the window and looked out through the blinds. Mark sat hunched at the edge of the front steps, elbows on knees. The eviction notice still fluttered behind him like a flag he didn't know he was carrying. She didn't feel triumph, not joy, not revenge, just air, just space. Emily moved to her side. Is it weird that I feel sorry for him? No, Gloria said. That means your heart's still yours. From behind them, Carol called out. I'd offer him a blanket, but I think his pride's keeping him warm. Gloria turned away from the window. No, she murmured. Now he knows the floor. Carol raised her coffee, and knees are colder than hardwood. Outside, Mark finally stood, picked up the duffel, and walked to the car parked at the end of the driveway. He paused once before getting in, looking back at the house, her house now, with an expression somewhere between grief and disbelief. Then he drove away. No honk, no words, just the sound of gravel grinding under borrowed tires. Gloria watched him go, then crossed the room and opened her notebook. She flipped past the foreclosure page, past the conviction, past the auction. Then she wrote 3 words: the curb. Done. She stared at the next blank page for a long while. Then, at the bottom corner, almost like a whisper, next. The offer. The knock didn't come. It started as a sob, a low, broken sound echoing off the brick walkway. Gloria opened her front door to find Mark on his knees, outside, slumped in the same driveway where his pride had once parked a leased luxury SUV. Now he knelt on concrete, palms pressed together like prayer. His shirt was wrinkled, mismatched shoes streaked with mud. Tears had carved tracks down his unshaven face. "Please," he whispered. "Please, Mom. I've got nowhere else." Gloria didn't step forward. She didn't recoil either. She stood in the threshold, her hand resting lightly on the doorframe, as still as a portrait. No anger, no warmth, just quiet. "I'm sorry," Mark said, voice cracking. I was wrong. We were cruel. I know that now. I lost everything. Vanessa's in jail. Emily won't talk to me. You were right, okay? You were right. Please, just help me. I'm begging." He dropped his head, forehead nearly touching the driveway. From inside the house, Emily stood in the hallway, arms folded. She didn't move. "He's trying to crawl his way back through pity," she said coldly. "Don't give in." "I'm not," Gloria said softly. She stepped outside, down 1 step. Mark looked up, eyes red, lip trembling. "You raised me. You loved me. You have to forgive me." Gloria's voice was gentle, not cold, not angry, just absolute. "Forgiveness is free," she said, "but not trust." He stared at her. "Then tell me what to do." She knelt slowly, her knees clicking in protest, until she was level with him. "Look around, Mark," she said. "This is what happens when you strip love for convenience and wear entitlement like armor. This," she gestured to the cracked driveway, the empty curb, the void behind his eyes, "is the sum of what you valued." Mark sobbed harder. "I thought I was protecting my family," he said. "I thought—" "No," Gloria said. "You thought I'd always come second." She stood. Mark reached out, tried to grab the hem of her coat like a child clinging to a mother in a storm, but she stepped back. Not cruelly, just clearly. "I won't hate you, Mark," she said, "but I won't house you either." And with that, she turned. The screen door creaked shut. She didn't look back. Behind her, Mark remained on his knees, crying, bent not by loss, but by recognition. Gloria walked through her living room, past the kitchen where Carol was washing dishes and pretending not to eavesdrop. Emily stood at the window, arms tight to her chest. "He always thought you'd break," she said quietly. Gloria paused beside her. "Maybe I did," she replied, "but I came back stronger at the seams." They stood in silence together, 2 women linked not just by blood, but by the clearest kind of love, earned, resilient, patient. Later that afternoon, Howard arrived with a folder. "The new documents are ready," he said, opening the file across Gloria's kitchen table. "Last will and testament," he said, tapping the cover. "All property, assets, and residual accounts to one heir, Emily Rose Mitchell, excluding all others." Emily looked up, stunned. "Grandma." "It's not a punishment," Gloria said. "It's a record." She signed the final page with a steady hand. Howard notarized it. Carol raised an eyebrow from the armchair. "Damn, that's the quietest mic drop I've ever seen." Gloria folded the will and placed it in her safe box. Then she walked to the window one last time. The driveway was empty. No car, no Mark, just sunlight glinting off pavement that once held her lowest moment. Now, it held no one. She turned to Emily. "One day, someone will try to take something from you," she said. "Not with fists, but with smiles. You'll feel the urge to let it slide. Don't." Emily nodded slowly. "I won't." Gloria smiled. "I know." She walked down the hall and back to her chair, the one with the clean Afghan drape just so. Then she opened her notebook and wrote, "The offer, the begging, closed." At the bottom of the page in elegant cursive she added, "Next." The clean slate. The scent of fresh paint clung to the air, lavender gray walls still soft to the touch, like something exhaled rather than brushed. Sunlight poured through new linen curtains. A vintage lamp glowed from the nightstand. At the center of the room sat a queen-size bed, firm, welcoming, perfectly made with embroidered sheets, and a quilt folded at the foot. Emily stood in the doorway, speechless. Gloria stepped up beside her. "Go on," she said. Emily took one careful step in, then another. Her hand ran along the edge of the wooden footboard. Her voice broke slightly when she whispered, "Finally, a real bed." Gloria nodded. One earned with respect. Emily turned to her. "You didn't have to do all this." "I didn't do it to have to," Gloria said. "I did it because no one should ever sleep on a floor and call it generosity." Emily sat slowly on the mattress, bouncing just once. Carol leaned in from the hallway with two paint-streaked fingers and a grin. "Better than watching it go at auction, huh?" Gloria arched an eyebrow. "Only slightly." They all laughed. Easy. Unguarded. The sound felt strange at first. Then it felt like healing. In the kitchen, a legal-size envelope sat on the table. Howard had dropped it off that morning. No drama, just details. Inside was a newly established educational and housing trust in Emily's name. Funded with what remained from the furniture auction, it was modest, but stable. Not a fortune, but a future. Gloria had initialed every page, then signed the last line without blinking. A floor was temporary. A foundation was forever. Outside, the neighbors' wind chimes sang gently in the breeze. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind of day where the stillness didn't feel like silence, it felt like peace. Carol poured herself a glass of iced tea and raised it in the air. To clean starts and soft mattresses. Emily clinked her glass to hers. And to not waking up on a yoga mat. Gloria smiled but said nothing. Her eyes drifted toward the backyard, where the rosemary plant had finally begun to bloom. She'd replanted it last week. New soil, better light. Some things just needed the right roots. Later that evening, Gloria sat at her desk by the window, reviewing her notes. The will, the trust, the closing document. Everything had its box. Everything had its label. And all of it now had closure. She flipped to the next page of her notebook. The clean slate. Done. She hesitated a moment before adding one more line. The legacy. A soft knock on her bedroom door. "Come in," she said. Emily peeked in. "You see the news?" Gloria looked up. Emily stepped inside, holding her phone. "They sentenced her." Gloria raised an eyebrow. 18 months, Vanessa. With time served, she'll do 14. Gloria gave a slight nod, then turned back to her notebook. "May it be long enough to think." Emily sat on the edge of her chair, quiet for a moment. "Do you feel better now that it's all done?" Gloria didn't look at her. She closed the notebook and set down her pen. "No," she said softly, "but I feel clear." Emily exhaled, then stood. She reached for Gloria's hand and squeezed it. "I never thought I'd have you like this." "You always had me," Gloria said. "They just built too many walls between us." They sat in comfortable silence as the light faded. Down the street, a sprinkler clicked on. Somewhere, a dog barked twice and stopped. The world didn't care what had been taken or restored. But inside that house, something had shifted. Not loudly, not even visibly, but something had taken root. Gloria stood, kissed the top of Emily's head, and walked to the guest room. She pulled back the quilt, fluffed one of the pillows, then smoothed the sheet again for no real reason at all. Then she turned off the lamp. And for the first time in years, every bed in her house was clean and claimed. The table was small, round, oak, with a few nicks in the finish that Gloria never bothered to polish out. It held 3 plates, 2 lit candles, a bowl of roasted vegetables, and a casserole dish steaming in the middle like a gift unwrapped. Emily poured water from a glass pitcher. Carol set down the last set of forks with a mock flourish. 3 queens, she said. "No thrones needed." Gloria smiled. "Dinner's hot. That's enough royalty for one night." They sat. There were no toasts, no declarations, just the soft clink of forks against ceramic, the rise and fall of easy conversation. Stories surfaced, some funny, some sharp-edged, all honest. At one point, Carol launched into a tale about a disastrous blind date and misordered escargot, and Emily laughed so hard she had to set down her glass. It was laughter that didn't sound borrowed. It was laughter that belonged to the room. Gloria laughed too, eyes crinkling, hand pressed lightly to her chest like she was surprised her ribs still remembered how to shake with joy. The light above the table flickered once, not with age, but with rhythm, as if the house itself was exhaling. After the dishes were cleared, Gloria handed Emily a folded dish towel. "Why do I get drying duty?" she asked. Gloria passed her the plate. "Because strength isn't always about standing tallest. Sometimes it's about staying after." They worked side by side at the sink, the rhythm of water and cloth a quiet hymn. When they were done, Gloria handed Emily a small velvet box. Inside, a delicate necklace, gold, simple, with a small pendant shaped like an open door. Emily looked up, blinking. "Grandma, I can't take everything with me," Gloria said softly, "but I can pass on the key." Emily wrapped her arms around her. "You gave me more than a bed," she whispered. "You gave me strength." Gloria held her tight. "Dignity isn't furniture, sweetheart, it's foundation. And now you've got yours." A breeze slipped in through the open kitchen window. Outside, the rosemary plant danced quietly in the moonlight. Later that night, the house fell into stillness. Not heavy, not haunted, just whole. In the hallway, a candle flickered on the side table beside the framed copy of Gloria's will. Its flame danced above her tidy cursive, casting soft gold over the words, "All to Emily Rose Mitchell," and the signature beneath. Carol slept on the pullout in the den, one foot dangling off the edge like a child on summer break. Emily's bedroom door was cracked open, a sliver of light from her phone screen glowing faintly, and Gloria stood at her own doorway, robe cinched at the waist, hair loose for once. She stepped into her room, turned down the quilt, slipped into bed. She lay back slowly, hands folded over her stomach like a woman not waiting to die, but done fighting to live. The sheets were cool, the silence complete. No footsteps creaked down the hall, no voices hissed through walls, no debts hovered, no insults lingered, just stillness, earned. She glanced at the ceiling once, as if to thank it for staying over her all this time. Then she closed her eyes. A faint smile curled her lips as her thoughts settled for the last time. They mocked me as a pet. I left them begging like dogs, and I slept soundly at last.